Here we are with the Serie A season digest, the beginning of a tactical revolution with Inzaghi and Motta in front, Zeman ideas still alive a bit surprisingly, and the collapse of defensive coaches. These are the main topics of our video. The two best teams of the season offered a unique football. Nowhere else can you see this kind of play. It's called relational football and it wasn't born in Italy. Its root track back to the futuristic Brazil 1982. And its revival began with Fernando Diniz Fluminense. It hadn't been seen in the top leagues until last year, and debates about it reached Europe far before it did itself. Inter and Bologna are the first to adopt it in Serie A. It's not surprising that the revolution happened in Italy. Relational football is a natural counter to man marking, which is used more in Serie A than anywhere else in the world. But these teams are unique not just in the top leagues, but in football as a whole. Motta combined in competitive style, mixing relational and positional approaches. Inzaghi blended free-flowing football with the principle of a total football and his signature direct style, making him the best counter-attacking coach on the continent. It's great that this innovative play was backed by results. Revolutionization never happened on the prohibitory. The world follows those who promise a bright future. The Inquisition, like it looked like Inquisition burned the outdated defensive coaches. It helped Roma and will help Juventus. 300 years ago, the last withered were burned in the squares. 30 years ago, fires were lit for poets. Today, the order of attacking football has rid itself of the classic destroyers who once initiated the light. De Rossi brought clear ideas to Roma, with the diagonal offers from passers, aggressive wingbacks, and hybrid module in the middle. The Romans collected 34 points and finished his run in fourth place, and they lacked the points Mourinho's team lost for Champions League qualification. Allegri had his best season of the second cycle. He finally opted for proactive defense, added movement in the attacking phase, and actively used positional rotations on the flank. For half the season, Juventus even competed with Inter, but in the last 17 matches, they won only three times. Allegri itself won twice. Then he was fired. The return to the mean, an unfortunate coincidence of psychological and physical slumps affected them. And the collapse brought benefits. Management shed old attachments and harmful illusions. Guardiola once said a project exists for 3 years. Then it's time to build a new one. Allegri spent 3 years in Turin without even starting construction. Roma got luckier and they traded a window for an unnecessary trophy. It looks like this season Napoli showed the role of the coach in modern football. From champions to mid table in just a year, or really a couple of months. They had it all: strategic mistakes, nerves, impulsive firings, and sheer bad luck. Napoli is fourth in expected points. They messed up so badly that they joined the flash mob. Hired and fired, and then reorganized everything as soon as they realized he was hopelessly outdated. They were unsuccessful transfers too, but even Keem couldn't have saved them. The Scudetto wasn't won by him, Lobotka, or even Osimhen. It was Spalletti who crafted it. A complement coach would have kept the team and their true level, and Napoli had one. But the president thought he had all the answers and removed Garcia from fourth place. It's a cautionary tale about the importance of distinguishing between squad potential and technical quality. There is no need to worry about Napoli, to my mind. De Laurentiis hasn't let them down before, and sometimes he gets a bit carried away. Life soaps him up and reminds him that even fairy tales have an end. This season, Maurizio Sarri was fired from Lazio, Dionisi was fired from Sassuolo, but it doesn't mean Sarriball is dead. People say Sarriball is dead, but the almost simulationist disappearance of both its avatars says nothing about its dismiss. A year ago, Sarri lifted Lazio to second place, and this summer, Lotito thanked him by signing players he didn't ask for. The injured Ravella arrived just days before the season started. Guendouzi came after the first round, and Isaksen and Kamada arrived 2 weeks before the start of and first sat down to learn Italian. Lazio faced a crisis in the essence of Sarriball, playing a memory and incredible synchronization. Sarri had to teach newcomers on the fly, and there was progress, but it was slow and didn't solve all the problem. Maurizio could do no longer offer anything new to this set of players, and the team had exhausted its potential in this specific system. Only Rovella could have made a visible difference, but he never truly arrived, missing preseason, worsening his usual fragility. Dionisi became the first coach exhausted by Sassuolo comfort. Every summer, the club set two goals: stay in Serie A and develop youth. In return, they had to accept a unique transfer model. The Emilians almost never invest in defenders. They don't generate significant profit, but they spend on midfielders and forwards to earn from resale. Sooner or later, a systematic failure was bound to happen, and they flopped in all purchases. Laurenti, Pinamonti, Torsvert, Bolocca, these are not Traore, Scamacca, and Raspadori, Lopez, or Caputo, even Juricic or Locatelli, definitely Locatelli. A fundamentally unbalanced team occurred, which had neutralized its vulnerability for years but lived by scoring more than they concede. Making mistakes was the attacking line. There was no longer anything to compensate their fragility. Dionisi sensed danger last summer. He queried with management and didn't hesitate to go public with it, but he stayed and he kept Sassuolo in the race until he was fired. 15th by points, lost at that time of his dismissal. That's not a real failure, but not something bosses expected from him. Milan basically stalled in its development, and bosses decided that it's time to build a new project. In last years, we insisted that Milan needed a system reboot. It didn't happen. The owners reshuffled the administrative staff and added depth to the attacking line, but the coach remained the same, and the football he offered did not change. In this specific sense, Milan and, let's say, Fiorentina were the most boring teams of the year. Every match a season followed a familiar script. Everyone knew the club's strengths and weaknesses in advance, mistakes were predicted, and even the injuries were the same as always, and they somehow again decimated the defense. Milan didn't even overcome its defensive on Leao and Hernandez. Although the bosses finally filled the void of the right, therefore the silver medal should be overestimated. Pioli was the best among crisis candidates, but his time has passed and the project has stalled in development. Now, a few words about Gasperini Atalanta, not only itself, but also as kind of school grade that graduates quality. When Atalanta trampled Bayern Leverkusen, Gasperini was labeled as one of the most influential coaches of modern football. His approach replaced the defensive catenaccio with parameters defining an Italian new style. Today, the majority of coaches across various leagues emulate his methods. In Serie A, about a third of the teams follow his blueprint, each achieving really significant results. This season, with the purchase of Scamacca and the further exuberant Atalanta has made a comeback, and although it may not yet competitive as it did during the days of prime Ilicic and Gomez, its potential is much greater, and the results are already better than during the year of old gods of Bergamo. More about Atalanta you can find in my previous video, so we won't focus this season introducing a new model of Zdenek Zeman football philosophy. In the last centuries, Zdenek Zeman claimed he played football of the 2030s. I'm not sure he calculated it, but the 2030s are approaching and his ideas are still relevant. This season introduced two citizens of Zeman land. It's Vincenzo Italiano and Eusebio Di Francesco. Fiorentina once again entered the season with a new anchor, the third in 3 years, and unreliable goalkeeper Terracciano, and a forward who struggled to score. They pressed like possessed, attacked with the majority of outfield players, and arrogantly pushed their defensive line back. They made mistakes and repeated it again and again. Italiana responded to any tactical shortfall with a radicalization. For example, when facing the old problems of breaking down defensive teams, Fiorentina lacked creativity to unlock the parked bus, and every counter-punch posed complications due to insufficient defensive numbers, and instead of adjusting the rhythm, Italiano added central defenders' participation, further highlighting the imbalance. Fiorentina didn't grow rapidly, partially due to Italiano, whom Zeman appointed as his successor. However, the bosses also repeated their mistakes, and the growth issue is more about them. In a way, the year-long day is more an achievement than a failure for Italiano. He maintained the previous level with a squad that never received significant upgrade but constantly underwent senseless changes. In the end, he reached the European final for the second consecutive time, and there were coaches in a more powerful and wealthier clubs who deemed this impossible. And we surely can't miss the final season of Claudio Ranieri in Cagliari. Cagliari's start was discouraging and unjustifiably deep defense, pointless long balls, and naive geometry in rare counterattacks. No team in the top leagues was more boring, but Ranieri didn't return to live like this. Since November, Sardinians have been playing differently, with a phase arrhythmia, situational pressing, and clear structure in quick counterattacks. Ranieri lives as himself, a reliable coach who always finds the simplest way to maximize results. And now his pupil takes over. A year ago, Baroni created an underrated masterpiece at Lecce. Now he has lifted Verona to 13th place despite a fire sale. The principles remain the same as Ranieri's, but in a modern package with a mandatory pressing and pronounced aggression. As we've already discussed numerous brilliant coaches' performances, now it's time to talk about top transfers in Serie A. It means about players who made a significant impact despite joining just last season. And on the fifth place here we have Christian Pulisic. From Chelsea to Milan for 20 million euros, and Pulisic became a key player for the team, significantly boosting the team's attacking power. With 15 goals and 11 assists across all competitions, 12 of which were in Serie A. He emerged as one of the top point scorers. His versatility allows him to play on the left and right and also behind the striker, providing tactical flexibility for the team so essential for Stefano Pioli. Pulisic deservedly earned the title of S Milan Player of the Year. On the fourth place, Gianluca Scamacca for West Ham to Atalanta for 26 million. Gasperini's return Atalanta's dazzling attacking style was made possible by the powerful and tactically adapted Scamacca. His physical strength and ability to play with his back to goal provided Atalanta with the necessary structure in attack. Scamacca proved to be a key factor in the team's success, contributing to their Europa League triumph and likely third place finish in the league. On the third place, Jan Sommer, who joined from Bayern Munich to Inter Milan for 7 million euros. One of the best coaches of the generation, so strongly underrated before joining Bayern from Borussia Mönchengladbach, and now successfully replacing the world's second most expensive goalkeeper Andre Onana, given even a higher level of performance than a Senegal goalkeeper. Replacing Onana with Sommer turned out to be financially advantageous and strategically successful both. By acquiring Sommer for 7 million, Inter Milan secured a goalkeeper who ranked second in the league and prevented goals and third for ball playing ability, behind only Provedel and Maingan in these positions. Despite his age, Sommer has proven to be a reliable and experienced goalkeeper, making his transfer one of the best deals of the season. On the second place, we have free transfer of Marcus Thuram from Borussia Dortmund to Borussia Mönchengladbach to Inter Milan. Initially seen as a useful player for Inter's counterattacks, Thuram turned out to be much more than that. He demonstrated a keen sense of balance, corrected structural issues, and connected triangles effectively. As the best supporting forward and one of the Inter's most important players, Thuram free transfer was a masterstroke. And on the first place, one of the best transfer of entire European season. It's Riccardo Calafiori from Basel to Bologna for just 4 million euros. Calafiori emerged as the defender of the season, defining the typical accolades, exceptionally effective in all aspects, from defense to attack completion, and he is being touted as the new Bonucci by Italian fans, and with 5 assists in a season, he made nearly as many as Bonucci's total career. Calafiori functions as both a libero and quarterback, making his 4 million euro transfer an absolute bargain. In conclusion, it's worth saying that Serie A season showcased the significance of coaching philosophy and adaptability, from the revival of Gasperini's methods to enduring influence of Zdenek Zeman. The league is a testament of the evolving tactical landscape and the continuous search for innovations and effectiveness. And that's why this league is still worth watching.